There's so much wisdom that comes from experience of each and every individual organism. I come to study the plants and the animals and the watershed as a whole, but I also come to learn a lot about myself and how I relate to fellow human beings. Nature's really figured it out, and you can see ecosystems of different organisms that all offer something different, and they bring something different to the table. One of the main important things about the Eastern Slopes is that it is our headwaters. Those snow-capped peaks, they're basically our water towers. Upwards of 90% of the water that we're getting in a lot of our channels is coming down from those mountains. So that's critically important. We use that for drinking water. It's critical for habitat.
Really, all this area is a big sponge. It receives more precipitation than areas further east, but it also keeps those amounts of precipitation longer and releases them more slowly so that we still have a nice supply of water during the entire summer, even though it may not be raining. So what we have here is that narrow band of forested area in Alberta, which was originally set aside over 100 years ago for timber production, but also safeguarding the water that we have. Because even then already the people realized that we need these areas to be the sponge, hold the water, feed the prairies.
Some of them seem to...
We are losing some of the natural integrity of the watersheds by the impacts that are caused by human land uses.
There's a lot of activities that are happening on this landscape. Because it's so beautiful, people come out here to recreate. We also use it for resource extraction. Things like coal and oil and gas. This is where a lot of our forestry is. So I think definitely with that cumulative pressure on the landscape, balanced with the critical habitat and the sensitivity of our source water, I think that's why we're really trying to promote stewardship of these areas.
Everything is interconnected. West Slope cutthroat trout is an indicator for watershed health because they really require very clean and cold water. They depend on all these invertebrates that can only thrive in clean and cold water. So if you have a lot of sediment, you destroy the food source for the fish, and then you also impact the spawning areas for the fish. When you have a loss of fish, what it really tells you is that your water quality is going down the tubes, which isn't in our own interest. I think one thing we need to keep in mind is it takes about 1,000 years to build like 1 inch of soil. And so if you see like a rut that is a foot deep, that's a lot of soil that we have lost. And it just takes an incredible amount of time to restore.
Cows and fish, we sort of have a couple different approaches when we're working on the landscape. And the one is very much proactive in that, we will work with a land user or a land manager. We use what we call our riparian health assessment. So we'll actually go out onto a landscape and we're looking at a few different indicators to tell us whether an area is healthy or not. And then on the other hand, we have some more reactive situations, such as when we're doing restoration, where an area has been compromised. And so we're coming back in and then we're replanting the willows to try to gain that ecological value again.
A riparian area is that really green, lush area around bodies of water. So that's really characteristic by the moist soils and the water-loving vegetation. So things like willows, rushes, sedges, and balsam poplar are kind of really common riparian species. This site has been kind of on our radar for a few years. It was a designated trail. There was a lot of erosion happening. There's a pipeline underneath, so the extensive amount of erosion was becoming a concern because of that pipeline and the potential for it to be exposed. So we worked with our local partners to kind of start some restoration. We did some access control to prevent people from coming in this area in the first place, because a lot of times people just don't know where they're going. And then we also put up some signage just to educate people as to why they shouldn't be driving in the creek, and to look for alternate methods, because there is a bridge that's just farther downstream, so it's easy access for them. So here we have a bunch of willow stakes, and by planting the willow stakes, we're helping enhance the vegetation, so getting those roots in the ground so that they can start to filter again and start to store water again.
Willows bind the soil. They are incredibly good at it. And they are also very easy to propagate. So you can take a cutting and cut it into 3-4 pieces. And then you put it into a hole, close the hole neatly around it. And if you did it right, then it will grow.
Education is the foundation of our organization.
Above the why, because there's great fun.
It takes time, one person at a time, one project at a time. Like a project like this is a one-day workshop, but it can take a year to plan and to get all the parts in place. So this one work day, there's a lot of collaboration that happens behind the scenes.
I just wanted to learn more about the process from start to finish. I know like a little bit about how it works, but I was really interested to do it myself because I've seen it on paper and I've seen videos, but to actually get to do it yourself is kind of a cool experience, and it's a little different.
I've got the big loppers, so I'm cutting the base of living willows, and then I'll pile them here, and Holly is trimming the little branches off.
The branch thinking needs to be about the width of a thumb, and it needs to be at least 1 meter long, and you chop it when it gets too skinny.
I think we have removed ourselves way too much from the natural environment as humans. You know, we go out here into the natural environment and then we go back into the city and we close the door and all of the windows, and we have, to a large extent, probably lost our ability to be a part of nature. I find it amazing, the diversity of birds that we have here, and would like to preserve that. And it speaks to intactness. That's, for me, what it's all about when we talk about reconnecting to nature.
Personal responsibility is critical in this. I mean, it can be, it's not my problem, it's someone else's problem, until it's everybody's problem. And eventually that will come right back to you. We're part of this living network. So if we don't take care of our piece and nobody takes care of theirs, then eventually we're left with nothing, and we're left with a great big mess. We have an opportunity to leave our mark. And I guess at the end of the day, it's just the question of what mark do you want to leave behind?